I will request that all males, if you know that you are to take off your hat, and I'm sure those that are moving around, they can stand still, because when you communicate with the God, the God must only hear the voice of the pastor, not our voice. So much. Introduce yourself before we start. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Pastor Paul Martin from Ward 14, Tembisa. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together. Your word says, where two or more are present, you are present. We give you the praise, we give you the glory, we give you the honor, and we pray that this time spent together will be used constructively. I knew you before you were born. I anointed you to be a prophet to the nations. You are here for a... In the name of Jesus, amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Martin. I already, it's because wrong people are praying for the rain. Then we have a disaster. So thank you so much. Let me take this opportunity to officially declare the meeting open, although we have done it through a prayer, and welcome all colleagues present, honorable members. Also invite all in public hearing. The first one was held 2 weeks ago in Soweto, but those that are here, I know that at times, but I will start with myself. My name is Ntombi Mekwe of the Oversight Committee.
Chair, good morning. Goeiemorgen, Sanbonani. My name is Nomathemba Mokgethi. I am a member of this committee. Thank you very much.
Bandile, this committee as well.
Hello, my name is Philip Makwala. I am a member.
Thank you so much. You know, we are sitting on my right-hand side are doctors by profession. Those that are sitting on my left-hand side are highly educated or are trying to be educated. But I will ask all officials that from the Gauteng Provincial Legislature just to wave. I'm not going to introduce them. Yeah. There. But I'm sure it will be important that I introduce because they are relevant to this, starting with Commissioner Mavuso. Maybe let me allow Commissioner Mavuso to introduce the staff from the Public Commission. I'm sure you all know, all of them, Commissioner.
Sanbonani, ladies and gentlemen. Igama lami uVusumuzi Mavuso. I'm a commissioner in the Public Service Commission. Ngihamba no Commissioner Sil, who's from the Western Cape. Usivakashile namhlanje. Commissioner Magaman is from the National Office, Epitori. He's here with us today. The General Way Public Service Commission, Advocate Dinky Dube, she's here. Sino Advocate Makinde, she is part of our team. Sino
I wonder if Bayababone mover. It will be important that as we introduce them, they must stand up.
Commissioner Sil, Commissioner Ngwanyana from the Public Service Commission. Samba sonke, siyabonga. Abanye bangaphandle babhizi laphana with stakeholder matters. Thank you.
Thank you. From the committee, we received 4 apologies. There are members who are attending to other business. I'm not going to mention them, but we have received. Colleagues, you are all welcome. Can I check if we are all going to be needing a translation, because we'll be conducting our business in English. But when we allow you to speak, you can speak in any language that you feel comfortable with. As we will be talking in English, nama translators, niyawubona lama bhokisi ahleli laphaya. Abantu abasitranslate-elayo. When you have this, I'm not sure who's distributing. Okay, Ubaba la will be distributing. If you need for a translation, just raise up your hand. Then if you want to understand at the time, because at times we might speak in other languages, if you want to listen in English, you just switch to one. Then for Sepedi or Setswana, channel number 2. For Africans, channel number 4. For Venda, channel number 5. isiZulu, isiXhosa, channel number 3. Sibambile ngithi? Okay. Thank you so much. Let me also remind you why we are here. In National Assembly, but they will also speak in detail later. Iye yaphasisa ibill esibiza ukuthi i-Public Service Commission Bill. Yingakho ama-commissioners, they are here because i-bill impact in the work that they do. So, since in National Assembly, which is i-Parliament, lese Cape Town, pasisa lo mthetho. But lo mthetho lo ngoba u-impacta kuma provinces, kufanelekile ukuthi uphinde ubuye kithi ngoba uye waya indlu isishaya mthetho sesibili, which is NCOP. Yeah, I think bafuna ama gadgets. Sicela nibani umhlangano kahle. So since in National Assembly iyaphasa lo National Council of Provinces, which is isishaya mthetho sesibili Africa. Siqhumelekile ke thina singama Gauteng Provincial Legislature namanye ama legislatures, one of them ukuthi sithathe le bill simukse ebantwini ukuze nikwazi ukuthi nibe ne-input before ishicilelwa, before iqala isebenza. So namhlanje size ngaleyo daba imihlangano efana nale uthole ukuthi ama stakeholders abahlali bagcina bakhuluma ukuthi nga-applyela indlu ngo-1940, omunye athi ngiye ngaya eklinika ngizange ngithole omunye abike udaba oluthize olungahambelani nomsebenzi wa today. Ngithanda ukuthi ngisho ukuthi ama service delivery matters, kodwa sizokuthanda ukuthi sibe ni focus on the business of the executives. We are obliged ukuthi fanele sixhumaneni nani, but we are also obliged ukuthi sithathe inkinga zenu uma senizilethile phambi kwethu ngoba kwesinye isikhathi kuba nzima ukuthi nisithole ngoba sisuke sibhizi ngama budget, sibhizi ngaloku naloku ya, kodwa uma sesifikile eduzane kwenu akufanelanga ukuthi sinivimbe ukuthi ningakhulumi nathi, kodwa sizocela ukuthi lokho business of today sikwazi ukuthi si achieve kungabi. Okay. Okay. No, thank you so much. So sikwazi ukuthi silandele konke okwenzakalayo. Ngizothanda ukuthi uma Gauteng Provincial Legislature sishaya la sikhona namhlanje yiholo yomphakathi akukhona ezindlini zomshaya sithetho la sinomali sibambela khona umhlangano. Kubalekile ukuthi ke ngokomthetho standing orders esiphethe iGauteng Provincial Legislature si declare this hall, which is Lord Kanyile, as the chamber for the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Mhlambe bathi fanele ngisho igama lami ngoba bathi bayangirecorda. I, Linting Ntombi Mihwe, the chairperson of Oversight Committee on the Premier's Office and the Legislature, hereby declares Lord Kanyile Hall and its surrounding premises Legislature in terms of Rule 56 of the Standing Orders of read together with Section 1 and 2, Section 28 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act number 4 of 2004. This precinct, the precinct is described, indicated good iholo normally, akusiyona ishaya simthetho, kodwa this one, the land that we are operating in and the part of the building under the Parliament's control, kushuthi kuphethe thina namhlanje, although uyiholo yaka masipala, kodwa kushuthi siyithathile namhlanje ne land ekuyo yingakho si mention because should there be umuntu ozosdisturba sinelungelo lokuthi si apply umthetho as the standing orders, but else also as umthetho was South Africa. Yingako sithatha over even the land where this hall is situated. The chambers in which the proceedings of the houses are conducted, kushuthi sithatha logu we are holding these meetings, and every part of the buildings in which the chambers are situated, the committee rooms and other meeting places provided or used primarily the building provided or used in connection with the proceedings of Parliament meeting, and this place will be provincial legislature. Thus, the standing rules of the legislature will apply and govern all the engagements of the day. So, uma sikhuluma ke ngemithetho yase legislature kusho yofanele ukuthi ihambisane ngoba uma ngabe sizoba nama disturbances sizoba nelungelo lokuthi sikhiphele ngaphandle. Okunye engathi kukhona abahlali abane tendency ukuthi sebenzisa the language engathandeki kahle, which is not tolerated, or inhlamba or ukudelelana, nathi sizozama by all ngaso sonke isikhathi. Ngakho ke nonke namukela ngethembe ukuthi ibusiness yethu izawuhamba kahle. Awusivakashele uSpeaker omkhulu waseTshwane eCapital City, Honorable Utswanama. Can you stand up, Putwami? Thank you so much. Bakubonile abahlikawa. I-program yami ke njoba iseculatewe sizothola ngizocela ukuthi uthathe indawo yakho uze uzoyenza i-presentation. Ngizocela ukuthi uma ngabe khona into ongayizwisisi ngicela ukuthi uyibhale phansi uzokwazi ukuthi uyibuze directly when usiswini sekaqedile ukupresenta. I-presentation yakhe is on how to process i-Public Service Bill Commission. Iguidwa yi process nje kunezinto ezisiguidayo ukuthi sisebenzisane ngazo. Ngubane?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, our esteemed guests and members of the community. My name is presentation on how we process legislation within the Gauteng presentation so that you will understand exactly where your submissions, whether written or oral, fit in this chain of events that will unfold within the provincial legislature, and why it's important to make relevant submissions so that they can be added onto or be given an opportunity to influence the final decision of the committee. So without further ado, my presentation is divided into two parts. We'll have the introduction, and part two we'll cover the processing a Section 76 bill in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Just by way of introduction, very briefly, in this slide, we really just zoom into what is the legislature. I'm sure most of you already know what the legislature is. But we just wanted to highlight that it's one of the three arms of government, of state rather, that coexists with other arms, i.e. the executive and the judiciary. Within the doctrine of separation of powers, it derives its mandates of oversight, lawmaking and public participation, as well as cooperative governance from the Constitution. And then in carrying out its work, the legislature ensures adherence to the Constitution, our standing rules. Chairperson has already alluded to those earlier, as well as all other relevant laws within the Republic. We derive our lawmaking powers. If you look at Section 100 legislatures, and also zooming into provincial legislature may consider, pass, amend, or reject. And I just wanted to highlight exactly what is a bill and define it. It is it's proposed legislation. It's still in its draft form, which is still under consideration by a legislature. Yeah, to solicit your inputs on this bill, because it's still in its bills, national bills, under the Constitution, 74 bills. These are bills amending the Constitution. So Section 75 bills, that's your Section 76 bills. And that is where this bill can be located. Right, on to the most important part, I think, processing a Section 76. I'm wondering whether you are able to see the small squares. I can't see. Are they visible? Can you read inside the boxes? But nonetheless, let me just take you through it. So our process, a bill starts at in National Parliament. As you know, Parliament is divided into two houses, the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces. So when the National Assembly has passed a bill, it transmits it to the National Council of Provinces, the NCOP. The NCOP will then transmit that bill to all 9 provinces, if it's a Section 76 bills, because it affects provinces, right? So the NCOP will informally refer the bill to provincial legislatures before the bill has been introduced or tabled. And then once the bill reaches the provincial legislatures, the speakers of those provincial legislatures would informally refer the bill to the relevant committee. In this case, it would be our committee, as well as the relevant MEC for information and planning purposes. Once the bill has been introduced or tabled in the NCOP, the NCOP will then formally refer the bill to all provincial legislatures and provide timeframes to process the bill. This is a very important stage because this really marks the beginning of actually processing a bill. And I'll speak later to what exactly we mean by that. The speaker then would formally then refer the relevant, the bill to the relevant committee and relevant MEC for processing. This is where now the speaker is saying you can now start the process of considering this bill and processing it in the committee. Then the committee will now prepare a plan on how to process the bill, which includes timeframes. Now, those timeframes will be guided by the timeframes that were provided by the NCOP that I spoke to on earlier. Then the committee will then sit down and really undergo a information collecting or gathering process just to familiarize itself with the bill, the contents of the bill, what it seeks to do, where were the gaps, why was the bill necessary in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. So part of that endeavor includes receiving a briefing by the department as well as the NCOP special delegate. Then it will also receive a legal opinion on the constitutionality of the bill. Then it will also receive a socioeconomic analysis on the bill. And then lastly, it will also receive views of the executive, provincial executive. What does the provincial government or provincial executive think of the bill? Is it constitutional? Is it implementable? Et cetera, et cetera. Now, moving on to the blue box. Now, that's for me is one of the most important boxes. And that is exactly where we are right now. That is the public participation phase. So once the committee feels that it is now fully au fait with the contents of the bill, it can now go out to the community and solicit public inputs, solicit public views on the bill. What do you think of the bill? And this is an important process, step, because it is mandated by the Constitution, firstly, to do so. And also, when it's formulating its negotiating mandate, which is transmitted to the NCOP, that mandate should ideally be also include or be influenced by the views of the people of Gauteng. So it's not only the views of the committee sitting here, but it's also the views those views influenced by the people, the views of the people of Gauteng. Now, once this public process is finished, is concluded, the committee will then go back and then sift through and evaluate and extrapolate all the relevant ones, and that is why I say it's very important when you are making submissions, make sure that they touch on the contents of the bill, preferably attack or comment on the clauses that you'd find in the bill, so that increases your chances of having your views being incorporated into the negotiating mandate. So it will sift through the submissions, then it will formulate a position. Are we in support of this bill? Are we voting in favor of this bill? Are we rejecting this bill? Are we abstaining from this bill? If for example, it says we are supporting this bill, but there are certain proposed amendments that we feel should be included, for example, amendment that may have come from you, stakeholders, then the committee will do so. It will incorporate those proposed amendments into that negotiating mandate. That document called the negotiating mandate is then transmitted to the NCOP Select Committee for voting. And then once that process is concluded, the NCOP Select Committee then submits feedback to us. When I mean us, I mean all the provincial legislatures on the outcomes of the deliberations and the votings. And then the committee will then have to sit down again and decide, based on this feedback that we've received from the NCOP Select Committee, do we now vote in favor of the bill? Are we rejecting the bill? Or are we abstaining from the bill? If it votes, for example, in favor of the bill, then it will then transmit that final voting mandate to the NCOP, and the NCOP will then vote in plenary, and each province has, and at least 5 provinces must vote in favor of a bill to pass. So if, for example, this bill, with this bill, only the NCOP only receives 4 favorable votes from all 9 provinces, it means that the bill will not pass. However, if it receives 5 or more votes in favor, then the bill will pass. Once it has passed, it will then be transmitted back to the National Assembly. The National Assembly will pass the bill, then the bill is submitted to the President thereafter for him to assent, meaning to sign it into law. And once he has done that, it now becomes an act. It forms part of our statute books. And the last phase would be then a signed copy of that act is now entrusted to the Constitutional Court for safekeeping. So that is at a very high level. There's a lot of, very intricate sort of processes that I've left out, but at a very high level, this should give you an understanding of, the process that unfolds when you are processing a bill and exactly where your submissions fit in that process and why it's so important to ensure that your submissions are relevant when you are making them. That is the end of my presentation, Chairperson and honorable members and our esteemed guests. Thank you for lending me your ear.
Thank you so much. I'm sure izwakele because it was very nice and short, but izwakala ukuthi uthini. But uma ngabe unama question, we'll wait for the right time to receive those questions or even those inputs. Let's allow Advocate Makinde from the Public Service Commission to make a presentation, or UDG or Director General Dube. Kumnandi masiphethe izindlu makuphethe abomama kuba mnandi kabi. Yeah. And we advocate. Yabo uthi ngiphethe ama-lawyer, nami ngathi sengizoba yi-lawyer. UDG umele uDirector General ne ngingakhuluma izinto stand.
Ngithanda ukubonga ku chairperson we committee, the committee, nabantu bomphakathi base Ivory Park. Bese bashilo kumina nguDinky Dube. Ngibuya khona e-Public Service Commission. As a commission, appreciate this opportunity because i-Gauteng iyo yokuqala kuma provinces ukuthi sinike lethuba i-Public Service Commission bill. So ku structure se sizoqala nje njengoba nibona sisho ukuthi lo mthetho lo omusha webill uzowenzani, kungani siyenza this process. But before I get there, maybe let me also take the opportunity to introduce our commissioners. We have seen earlier the 3 commissioners who are here, Commissioner Mavuso, Guyena, Owala, Gauteng. So a Public Service Commission sine office in every province. Commissioner Sil yena wase Western Cape aphinde futhi asize nge-legal process. In the national office based in Pretoria, sinama commissioners awu-5. Chairperson wethu Professor Somadoda Fikeni, uphinde asizwe isekela lakhe Commissioner Zukiswa Mqolomba, siphinde sibe no Commissioner Makhanya, Commissioner Magaman bese nimbonile ukhona naye namhlanje, ebese kuba no Commissioner Nancy Ngwenya. So those are the 5 commissioners for the national office. Then KZN sino mama Yasmin Bakas commissioner yase KwaZulu Natal. Kuthi ke eLimpopo sube no commissioner Sihonya. Then Northern Cape sino commissioner Gqoyiya. Empumalanga uZulu. Eastern Cape commissioner Mapolisa. Free State sibe no commissioner Nakedi. So okwamanje in the province Northwest asikakabi ne commissioner sisamelo ukuthi ilegislature se Northwest is appointed the commissioner. Ngizokhuluma ngeprocess yoku appointa later on. So uCommissioner Makhanya okuye ose national office usasiza lapho eNorthwest. So lo mthetho lo we Public Service Commission bill kahle. What are its objectives? Main objective is to create an independent secretariat for the Public Service Commission. What does that mean? So, okwamanje istructure sethu sikanje. Constitutional institution. Masibheka ku chapter 10 we constitution. Uzobona lapho usection Public Service Commission, which is the single Public Service Commission for the Republic. Kodwa i-Public Service Commission ayinayo ekuguthi isebenza nayo directly. So, Public Service Commission is of public, which is a national government department. You must be independent. You must be impartial so that to provide oversight over national government as well as provincial government for now. Because the national government department is subject to the oversight that will come after the bill. What this bill also does, ukuthi izosinikeza ipower ne-authority as ku-investigator, provide oversight ku-local, which is municipalities, also get ne-institutions, those we call state-owned entities. So those are really the 2 primary objectives. As a PSC, we believe ukuthi if this bill is passed, it's also going to, this bill will give us those teeth. How does it do it? It does that by saying ukuthi once sesiqedile umsebenzi siya investigator, siya researcher, senza ama findings, senza ama recommendations. So once lawo ma recommendations sesiwa issuewile, those recommendations must then be implemented. If whatever entity, whether a government department or masipala, if bangafuni ukuthi ba implement, supposed to take the matter to court for review. They cannot just ignore our recommendations. That is what is important about this bill. It is strengthening our enforcement capability as a Public Service Commission. What it will also assist us is that Mauyagu Public Finance Management Act, check lapha ku Schedule 1, in a list yama constitutional institution. What is also important about this bill is what is also important about this bill is department kuphinde kube ne Public Service Commission. So conditions of service zama umongameli, he issues a presidential minute. That is a system which is different than all other constitutional bodies who are regarded as public office bearers because they are. So why do we need to extend the mandate here PSC to municipalities? This process yaqala ngo-2011. So when the PSC appeared to Parliament, because the Constitution, as a PSC, we account to the National Assembly. So when they appeared in Parliament in 2011, Parliament issued a resolution. Yoguti, it is not enough PSC. Yoguti oversight yenu is only limited to national and provincial. They are also concerned about other service delivery issues in municipalities, or even issues of the employees as public servants. So that resolution then says, PSC, we want you to be that single public service commission for the Republic, as the Constitution says in section 196. So that is where it started. But the commission itself conducted what we call an institutional practice review, which would be looking at, as an organization, how effective is the PSC? Do we need to strengthen it so that we're able to have more impact? So that study, that institutional practice review study, yasibonisa ukuthi this design yokuthi i-Secretariat ibe government department, but when you are a constitutional body, is really not assisting you to be effective. You need to operate independently, njengamanye ama-constitutional institution. So that is where we have started. It's been quite a long journey. Imagine since 2011, we are happy manje ngo 2025, which we are just almost on the finishing line. So the mandate of the PSC is there in chapter 10. When you go to the Constitution, we often pride ourselves, Yuguti, Tina, we are the only one that has a dedicated to itself in the Constitution. The others, they share chapter 9. So public protector, auditor general, bago chapter 9, Tina Sigu chapter 10. So our work really ranges from conducting investigation. That investigation will be a complaint from members of the public. Nina njengomphakathi wase-Ivory Park, if mhlambe ninenkinga around the service delivery, you can visit our office ikhona eGauteng eJoburg, sino office niyo complain nge-service delivery issues eninazo. Then ithina siyakwazi ukuthi si-investigate, sikwazi ukuthi si-recommend whatever that needs to be done to correct that. So that is the one function ye-PSC. The other function ye-PSC yokuthi ama-public servants, right now, national and provincial government departments is estimated to there's about 1.3 million public servants. So if they are not happy and they are aggrieved emsebenzini, and ukuthola ukuthi bayaloja ama-grievance emsebenzini, kodwa they are not satisfied in the outcome, they can then come to the PSC sizokwazi ukuthi siba investigated. So we deal with grievances from public servants. What we also do proactively, ukuthi saye singameli umphakathi or even nabo ama-employees in the public service ukuthi baze. Siyakwazi ukuthi thina proactively masibona ukuthi ngathi kunenkinga la. This is what we often call a systemic deficiency. Masilokhu sibona ukuthi why is it njalo nje sithola ama-complaint ngendaba ze-leave or sithola ama-complaint wama-undue delays. I say, for example, process ama-IDs e-home affairs. Mhlampe kunenkinga that is more systemic efuna ukuthi intervention yethu i-PSC. So we do that proactively. We also have the power to go on site, senze ama-unannounced visits, so enze ama-inspections. We've done quite a lot of these over the years and issued a report. The one example is the work we've done with the Department of Home Affairs. So we also do research. Man neskat ni visit website yetu PSC. Over the years we've issued different types of research reports, which reports will show if kunama areas where ama gaps mhlampe in the public service on policies, will then recommend ukuthi ba address those gaps. So our website is quite rich with the researchers report as a PSC. So that is really the mandate here, PSC. I'm now going to take you through the bill itself. I believe ukuthi kulama packets watholile nizoyithola i-copy ye-presentation, but kunane bill yona itself. So in this presentation, I'm just showing you its structure so that when you read the bill, you understand ukuthi how is it structured, what does each clause mean. So when you open the bill, of course, once you've gone through the cover, you'll see the preamble. That's where it starts. And what the preamble does, it sets out really why are we embarking on this process for the bill. So the preamble sets out the purpose of the bill, which is to regulate the Public Service Commission in accordance with the provisions of Section 196 of the Constitution. As we have said, Guti, everything starts with the Constitution, or Chapter 10 or Section 196. What the bill also does is to regulate the procedure for appointment of commissioners of the public service. The 14 commissioners we've spoken about earlier, the bill tells us what is the process that must be followed when we need to appoint a commissioner. Of course, the most important part, the establishment of this independent secretariat to support the commission. It does, of course, repeal the public as well as deal with other matters connected thereto, which I'll talk to now. Then once you've moved from a preamble, it's going to take you to Part A, which Part A really is. So we define certain terms, for example, the local government. We also define what is the secretariat of the commission that we talk about. But what is important about the Part A, it also see that our bill will now to local government as well as state-owned entities. It says, the Public Service Commission Bill 2023 applies in relation to the administration of the public service. So a public service for now is national as well as provincial government. Then it also says, and public administration, which then means the entire system. Is now Part A of the bill. Then we move on to Part which now goes in detail on the institution of the Public Service Commission itself. We now know the commissioners, as we've alluded to earlier. But what Clause 4 then says is, who is eligible to be appointed as a commissioner? So it sets out a very detailed criteria. What is important about Uguti, right now, when you go to the Constitution, it only says a commissioner must be fit and proper, must be South African, female and male. But because currently government, in this policy is the implementation of the public sector. So we wanted to align the eligibility criteria of commissioners to the professionalization framework. How we do that is, not only do we say the minimum qualification for a commissioner, educational qualification, our commissioners will now be required to have a bachelor's degree and at least a minimum of 8 years. So that is how the PSC is professionalizing itself. You know, they say charity begins at home. Before we start by pointing a finger at all the other departments who are overseeing, it must start with us. So that's what Clause 4 does. But it also then indicates the fields of study, of work experience that a commissioner must have in order to be eligible. So for instance, if we take the vacancy in the Northwest office, if it gets re-advertised at some point after the passing of this bill into law, you will see the criteria will say a commissioner must have this experience, bachelor's degree, 8 years of experience, as well as have worked in public admin, human resource, and all the other areas as we have indicated. So that is the part, the clause that deals with appointment. Clause 5 also talks about disqualification. What will disqualify you to be appointed as a commissioner? So of course you must be deemed to be a fit and proper person in order to be considered, over and above having met the other criteria. The bill is very detailed around the areas of disqualification. We do want our commissioners who are persons of integrity, as well as comply with the right ethics. So that is now the disqualification for appointment as a commissioner. Clause 6 then says, once you get appointed, what are you limited to do? For example, can you do a private business if you are appointed as a commissioner? And the Act says no. So our commissioners are there on a full-time basis. You know, often people confuse a commission and a board and say, are they a board? So commissioners are not a board, they are there on a full-time basis. It's unlike a non-executive board that only meets maybe once per quarter. So our commissioners are not permitted to have private business or to do any other work when they get remunerated outside the PSC, unless they get permission from a president. So which means that commissioners must primarily be working for the commission, but if they want to do any other work, they must get approval from the president. What clause 6 also does is, what then happens once a commissioner has finished a term? So the 14 commissioners are appointed. Each is appointed for a 5-year term. So what happens when the term ends? The term can be renewed, so there would then be a process of renewing the commissioner's term, 5-year term. Alternatively, then depending on the legislature, for example, the Gauteng legislature will then have to make a determination, which determination would be informed by a motivation, a PSC, you know, commissioner, let's say Commissioner Mavuso, we believe he has performed well as a commissioner, and there would be motivation for renewal or not. If not, then the position will then be advertised. But in the instance where a commissioner wants to resign, they are required to give at least 120 days notice. Can you see how long it is? Normally, now we're used to just 30 days, but because of the importance of the work of commissioners, they must give at least 120 days notice before they leave the commission. So now the commission is fully constituted, the 14 commissioners, they are all on the same level because they're all commissioners. Who must then lead the commission? I'm sure is the question that will then come after. So clause 7 answers that question because it says the president must then designate a chairperson. So among the 14 commissioners, the president will then say, so and so you are the chairperson. Right now, as we've seen in the earlier slide, Prof. Somadoda Fikeni is the designated chairperson. We also have Commissioner Zukiswa Mqolomba as the designated deputy chairperson. So that's what the law says around the designation. That must happen within 30 days of appointment. And then, of course, clause 8 deals with the conditions of service, how commissioners can be appointed, and what are their benefits. What is important about this is that commissioners will no longer be treated differently like other commissioners of other constitutional bodies. So the Independent Commission for Remuneration of Public Office Bearers will determine the conditions of service, including their remuneration, then the President will approve. So that is what really is different with this new bill. So now the inspections that we've spoken about earlier, the ability for the Commission to any state entity to oversee the operation, look at service delivery standards, is still included in the Public Service Commission bill that is under clause 9. This is a power we currently have in the 1997 Act. We will continue to have those powers. And that, of course, also includes the investigations, being able to conduct our own accord investigations, or dealing with complaints and grievances that you. Constitution says to us, investigate without fear. You must be independent, you must be impartial. What the bill does, which is also in the 1997 Public Service Commission Act, it says, in the process of you conducting the investigation, you have the right to summon any person as a witness so that they can be able to give you information, as well as you can summon any documents as part of that investigation process. We, clause 12, then talks about what then happens once we have concluded the investigation report. Does that report become accessible by any persons? Do members of the public have a right to access that report? So often the work that we do as a PSC is compared to that of the public protector. But there's a slight difference with the accessibility of reports between these two institutions. If public protector, Iona, is mandated by the Constitution to make their reports accessible publicly. That is why I'm sure we've all seen once in a while the PP will sit and release the reports in public. But the Public Service Commission, our report consumption per se, especially the investigation reports. But what this bill requires us to do is, be it a complainant in a department, they will then have a right to access that report. We have now, we didn't have this authority by law to issue those reports. But we find, Gucci, the need to promote access to of 2000. It's a constitutional right that the court the reports to those parties to the dispute. So what will then happen once we issued the reports, be it that of an inspection report, investigation report, we send these to executive authorities, government. This would be the prima MECs in the provincial government, and of course, so we send now that report to the executive authority. Implement those recommendations. If they don't implement the recommendation, months or so, they should indicate reasons why. If maybe they are not happy or they believe that the commission has erred in its finding, they will then need to review. So, in simple terms, they cannot just ignore our reports once we've sent, and those. As a PSC, we can either issue the recommendation or a direction, which really we believe give us the legal force. So that is why really we are here to talk to yourself as this bill, because it's going to give us the power to enforce our legislation. Principle of independence and impartiality that we've spoken about. What we like about clause 15 in particular, which it says no person must. So if any person is found to have obstructed the commission, they may be fined, because that goes against a very important constitutional principle, because they are required to support the work of the commission. Either lay a criminal charge or a fine, which I'm sure none of the... Our effectiveness really is dependent on their full support. Tell about this secretariat that we are established, as clause 16 indicates. Effectively, what it means is that all the officials who are transferred to this independent secretariat, you will also no longer have a new dispensation. What we are looking at is a structure. The Cultural Rights Commission, you know, all the Chapter 9 bodies where it's the commission support design we are looking for. And then, of course, clause 17 about the delegations of powers, the interface between the secretariat do. Administratively, the current design we have is that the Director General administrative support to the commission, and the commission, of course, are the ones that implement the constitutional mandate. Then, of course, we are a public sector organization. We are dependent on the fiscus for the funding scenario, where the Public Service Commission is then also able to bill for the work it does. So if you look at the Auditor General Chapter 9, that they are auditing, and so this PSC to bill for the work that it's important to allow ultimately for financial independence and our ability reigns. Then we are just about to conclude on Part E, which really just deals with the general provisions. What happens if someone wants to sue the commission? What we also talk about the rules that can be issued by the commission. So the rules are really how we do the research, as well as the governance system of the commission itself. Site, as we said, not only are you going to find our research reports, you'll also find governance rules happen in future if we need to repeal or amend this legislation. We also have a provision, you know, the movement from the current structure of a national government department being OPSC to. So slide 17, this is just the process where we started, which I could do as a PSC. So what is a way forward? In a nutshell, the request from the commission is for the provincial legislature to support this bill. So as community of Ivory Park, we really support sizokwazi ukuthi sithole the power yokuthi sidile ne matters in local government. Once then all the provinces have considered the bill, and will then revert back to the National Council of Provinces, as we've heard earlier, for unyaka lo uphela, we will then have a new public service committee. So that is essentially what the way forward slide says. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. That we're using the venue is allocated a park. Umpagati okona ubuya from different areas surrounding presentation. I will therefore give it to you. Honorable Speaker Tshwane, you have a right. Remember impact on local government, and we're not getting the either positively or negatively, so I want to hear your views as well, if you can. If not, to make a presentation, because we are obliged to actually engage with almost everyone. Because sifuna imibono yenu, sifuna uma ngabe sizomamela kuphela, siyenze ama inputs wethu. Ngiyasibona ngithathe izandla bese ngize la phakathi bese ngemuva ngiyabona umama lo ola 2, then ukansela Tshwanamba 3 kuphela ngapha. Okay.
Good morning.
Nathi ungazisho ukuthi
I'm audible. Okay, my name is Mpoma Siga. 1 Watt. I'm a member of trust team of Treble 1, work with the Councillor Supe. The technology gadget, when I say it's others, they don't know how to use even a smartphone. We ask them, our problem of transformers that they blow time and again. You find out one transformer plus or minus 54 that they get what belongs to them, because the last one, we got somebody's owning RDP. Their house costs, the bill is almost 800. The house is more than the property. We ask them, okay, can you please, they're doing estimation. We door to door, encourage the people to pay the savings.
What we said la namhlanje, shuya kunomunye ubhuti labathu babu Kaizer Komane, babu Kaizer ngicela ungithathele ama details kalobusha ohlongozwayo sithini ngathetho egcineni ushilo ukuthi size la ngoba support ene ubekile ukuthi sisupporta ngoba kunalama different areas esicabanga ukuthi azochinja or azonceda kukini ukuthi and why uthi angeke azanceda and why fanele siba support or why simayidlale I role ukuthi iyenze I oversight ku Eskom no angle oyithathile could have been different. Manje uthi sambe siyofuna ama transfer, which becomes a problem. Prakeza awubonane nobhuti lapha. Mama,
Chairperson, because of you can want to enforce anything that is in, because of there's no one who's monitoring that what you are is in, because of there's no one who's monitoring that what you are enforcing it's happening, and I am and I am
but take une right phansi in your own language again, phansi in your own language again. Proposal
available, please come to Tshwane. Tshwane is dynamic. I can stand here and say, as Tshwane, we support the bill. Then when I go back, then they'll ask me who gave you the mandate. So we work as a coalition in Tshwane, and we respect the residents of Tshwane. I will request, Chairperson, I heard the presentation, and I'm in this next 5 days goes to Pretoria. We'll engage here on this, also the MMCs. But as you have said, Chairperson, positive one or a negative one. And the DG said, yeah, we don't have a choice but to, if we are not happy, God, we want to decide and say, this is working for us and we want it. So that is my request, Chairperson. That
Yeah, C1.
Yeah, usisi uqala ukunalo akuphawule khona in terms of so ke kunosisi oqala wenza presentation so okuvezile ukuthi kune bill yemali money bill so kimina uzoba nemali bill so zihlangana kuphi these things so izovimba ukuthi kungabi nemali izohlala so izovimba ukuthi kungabi nemali izohlala phansi kwamastrasi or something so mhlawumbe izosiza lapha ngasi so ukhulume ngama objectives uzo investigate so angazi ukuthi kunama sinyazi unit manengi and so on that's one thing engifuna understand unit manengi and so on that's one thing engifuna understand why is not part of the chapter 9 institution because ngiyabona ukuthi kunama commissioner ay14 each province maybe chapter 9 institution because it's a national structure and the president is also involved in terms of so the last one ile yokuthi njengoba this commission kunama criteria ukuthi ufuna kube ufuna ube ne degree masters into zonke lezi zinto which is good person ana kunehlelo elithize or prerogative ka president ukuthi hayi lo usha nge face value or lo hayi ulaphani ku NEC or just umuntu ngathi uhlakaniphe kakhulu emehlweni kwenza u president uinfluence yini ukuthi u chairperson kube umuntu onjani in terms of being part of leading this structure. Ngiyabonga Chairperson. By the way, ngiya support the bill. Izosebenza kodwa ke ngifuna nje ukwazi lama confusion lawo ngiwadawulile. Ngiyabonga.
Sengapha ngaku left. Asibona izandla ngapha ngaku left. Nangu bhuti omncane laphaya.
Ngibingelele bahlali egama anele Maxama ngibuya Ward 110 Davidson. I'm appointed the CLO extension 2 legislator of bringing these platforms to requirements for the commission. Since sibonile sonke ukuthi isikolo sibalekile so a commission going to be different from the commissions that we've had and also I would like to make the house aware of the difficulties that we are experiencing at Davidson since stilang into service delivery to come to Davidson municipality to engage nama officials waka masipala walapha siba nenkinga si Eskom inkinga ka masipala so kunalo nkinga between masipala uthi fanele senze petition so abhalile ama email siyisile na ku South African Human Rights experiencing low reduction ye 5 hours engaphumi ukuthi kanjani so bengingabonga ngicela futhi ize nale protect futhi since sibona ukuthi abantu bayabulalwa ngokuba ama whistleblower so we'd also like the PSC to look into that the protection of whistleblowers ngiyabonga
Siyabonga kubhuti anele nami ngine low reduction la ngihlala khona namhlanje from ngo5 hayi inkinga mara sizoyicoca aside ukuthi iyenziwa yini lo reduction ronombono ngicela ukuthi abangakhona ukuthi newo kupa liyemeleng uma ngabe awukhonanga ukuthi angithi sonke asiphanga amandla ukukhuluma emihlanganweni. Ungabhala phansi. Uma ngabe awukhoni nokubhala phansi, banibhalele ngoba abanye abantu sithembele nangu nomunye usisi la. 4 niyababona 4 esisebenza labo eGauteng Legislature. Bazonibhalela phansi wena khuluma. Public participation means faneke si enable khono wabo ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bayenza ama input. I-input awuyenzi ngokukhuluma kuphela. Awuyenzi ukuthi kubhale wena, uyacela omunye umuntu ukuthi akubhalela ngithi. So sizocela ke ngithi niyababona bahleli kuphi ningaba approach ke. Ithi nginikeze ithuba ke kube nama Xolani beka kuphi lo bhutlo. Ngicela usukube bhutusho. Angifuni ukukuvayela ngaphandle. Mara we can't go lo.
Sanibona njani? Igama lami uMuthapelo Nonyani from speak. Okay. Guys, mina I have lantole iskalo guys cause and inkinga zakhona it seems like no one is attending lezo inkinga. So can I report that I can say maybe nginikeze nina and then maybe you can but okay, let me think in that way. Inkinga yami guys ukuthi besebenza under water house to house. We had ama problems. People they are complaining ukuthi they are paying rent yamanzi, then rent yabo still ayikhethwa iyakhuphuka. And when I check on the other side, there is also imikhuku eminingi which is by a complaint ukuthi guys labantu laba badonsa igesi illegally and not even electricity only, badonsa even namanzi underground pipes. Like if let me say amanzi go there and connect ama pipe swap. So it's some other.
Ngicela uphe ubhuti Kaiser leyo inkinga yakho ngoba senisilethela inkinga zenu namakhansela wenu. Yabona speaker ukuthi sisenkingeni engakanani. Mara sizo follow up ukuthi sive ukuthi inkinga ikuphi. Ngiyethemba ukuthi akusekho umuphakamisile isandla. Yeah, ngicale ngawe icala. DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, but Tapelo ngiyacabanga ukuthi uchair also respondile wagada ukuthi ama complaint wakho bazowa handle anele. So yes, protection yama Service Commission. So currently guna the anti hotline. That is where our whistleblowers can call if maybe guna any allegation of corruption. We protect their identity. You can decide to remain. So it's part of the work that we are indeed doing. So the question is interesting. So basically this new law will then make it clear, Commissioner, yini the requirements ekufanele ube nazo in terms of education nama areas here field of study. Then begune question kubhuti Bongane ukuthi this appointment or designation ye chairperson ye commission, is it prerogative? Answer is yes. So President uthi masiseka nawo ama CVs wawo wonke ama commissioners mongameli ukuthi ubani acabanga ukuthi angaba yi leader ye commission. Then we're going to question, and I think it's a question that has come quite lep yomsebenzi esiwenzayo as a Public Service Commission, a Public Protector, ne SIU. Ungabukeka ngathi uyafana. Kodwa this is what we do to ungabi ne overlap, but also singa repeat the same work, ne? Public Protector, siyaye sign a memorandum of understanding nabo. Protocol. If we are dealing with certain types of matters, she's referring to Public Protector and vice versa, nabo bazi refer githi. If mandate is slightly distinct from that of the Public Protector, because if focus kakhulu on administration in the public service itself, applications I avoid ngokuthi sivumelane ukuthi wena Public Protector. And then we are also part of this forum of institutions supporting democracy. Should all the constitutional bodies are good that we spoke about, chapter 10, all the institutions that are established by the Constitution, zayezhlangane on a quarterly basis, so that sizokhona ukuthi sikhulumisane, share ama ideas, nokuthi repeat what the other one has already done. So that's how we manage the potential overlap here constitution. The question here monitoring, that is so important, and maybe I've done a little bit of this service in my. The Commission is doing a lot of work on monitoring and evaluation. So over and above when my investigation, and as you report, so yes, follow up nabo ama ministers na executive authorities, so that we ensure we must monitor and evaluate the work in the public service. Then ngiyacabanga ukuthi question le about ESCOM and electricity, those are covered by uChairperson. Sengiphendulile zonke mibuzo.
Commissioners.
Ibuzo Councillor or Speaker, we have arranged a meeting between what you call the intergovernmental relations, according to the mayors, speakers, and chief whips will be invited to the province and will be presenting the same bill together with the work to the forum. So it's going to take place next month in August. Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Sin.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies. So I think my DG has covered two small bits. There was a very important question from the young gentleman who spoke about measuring the effectiveness of the Commission. So thank you for raising that. As DG's indicated, we do follow up on the recommendations that we've issued, so it doesn't just end up as a report that lands on. The Commission vigorously follows up on that, and if we had the time, we'd be examples of where the Commission's recommendations has actually led to real differences in communities, where poor service delivery at hospitals, police stations, for example, have been changed because of the work of the PSC. I'll add to that to say that there will be instances, just like we saw in our country's history, where the public protector's reports were ignored and were not implemented. And people asked questions about the effectiveness of the public protector and what happened. It, in fact, make decisions which bound government to actually enforce those recommendations. We see departments willfully ignoring recommendations and sound recommendations of the Commission. There is also to ensure that those recommendations gets implemented. And we that. And there was also a question regarding the appointment criteria for the chairperson, and the requirements applies to both the commission, the chairperson as well as the deputy chairperson. So they would also need to comply with those requirements as is specified in the Act. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've been covered by my colleagues here that DG did an excellent job. But I just want to cover on the issue of, we do interact with SALGA. I think they'll be part of COCTA, am I correct? So there is some interaction, so you can rest assured. And we want that we have, and there must be clarity on what we want to achieve. And I must say that we will implement consequence management. There will be more accountability. We'll ensure we are going to, you'll feel the impact once.
Thank you so much. I think aphendulekanga kahle ongane Mthembu ukuthi difference or advocate. I don't see you. Okay. Maybe you're going to respond to that.
I think I just wanted to say, there has been this repeated question, what is the difference between the PSC and the other Chapter 9 institutions? And I think it's high time that we start to answer some of those questions. Step 195, 196, and 197. Section 195 is talking specifically about the values in the public administration. So what that means is that the role of the 196 and 197, those functions were performed by the Public Service Commission alone in the past. To make sure that the public service is effective, commission is where an official, a government official, is not doing his job. Some people will wonder, why would the PSC get involved with a situation where we used to go around and say 30 days payment is important, you are killing business. It is because those payments are supposed to be made services, and they didn't do it. So wherever public service and public administration is involved, extending that duty to say it will now be in pairs of government. So that's what the bill is doing, to say that public administration aspect, we need to emphasize it. And all the people that are doing the work in terms of government budgets, the PFMA, that you get, you are a public servant. Some public servants are even inclusive of parliamentarians themselves, because they also work for the public interest. So that is why we are looking at public service and public administration. The distinction between all of this is that in other institutions, you'll be looking at things like human rights, you'll be looking at language issues, you'll be looking at political activities, like the public protector focuses more on the executive authority, whereas the Public Service Commission is focused on the administration, starting from the head of the department or the chief executive officer downwards. That is more of the focus. I hope I have tried to explain it a bit. And the focus is to make sure that the work that the PSC does is not ignored, it is a decision, and then we are able to then monitor. Because if you look at section 196.4a to F, it talks about those functions of investigation, dealing with complaints, dealing with monitoring and evaluation, giving advices, and all this other record. And also conducting research. Thank you.
Ms. Ngubane, you spoke about the different bills. Can you explain?
Thank you. My apologies, Chairperson. My apologies, Chairperson. A money for to use for service delivery, for example. I'm just trying to simplify levies and or duties. That is what a money bill is. An example of it is the Division of Revenue Bill, for example, that we're currently actually dealing with right now. Allocates monies to all money bill is. That is what we're talking about when we're talking about a money bill. However, the PFMA, in a nutshell, as people who are using that money as government, the public purse, money from the public purse, right? So that is in essence, at a very high level, the difference. Money bill siya impose ama taxes and levies and duties. Ngala, kwi PFMA. Are managing monies that have been given to them from the public purse.
Angifundisa ukuthi ngibe yi-adult educator. I-bill, uma umthetho ungakaphasi, manje mawuthi i-money bill, imali, angithi i-budget center, yaphaswa sekuyi-act. Manje uma mungubane ukhulume nga different types of bills, kusho ukuthi imithetho engakaphasiswa. Sesayimukisa eParliament ukuthi iphasiswe. 75, 76 ezisaya ukuyophasiswa ngithi. Imani bhike iye na ku NCOP iphinde ize la legislatures silethe ebantwini. Angithi niyayithola. That's a money bill. Uma eParliament kunezimali ezibuya kuma provinces ezibuya eParliament. IParliament iyayiphasisa sekuba i-act. Manje i-Public Finance Management Act ne-Municipal Finance Management Act, i-MFMA ikubo masipala, i-Public Finance Management and national. Nathi ke kuma legislatures nature imali fanele siyiphathe kanjani including iParliament. Ngithi sayithola. Yeah. Ngiyakuthembisa angazi thingephi beka khona. It shows ukuthi our civic education ninga chapter 9 ni chapter 10. It means responsible for the constitution. I-civic education yabo ayikakabi very strong. Ngiyakhumbula ukuthi bekuba nesikhathi labo you were compelled ukuthi uma kufika isikhathi saka March December siyofundisa abantu ngeconstitution kula sizowazi yini including nathi si legislature by the way angifuni ukuzibekela ngaphandle ukuthi sizonifundisa ukuthi umsebenzi wethu yini of South Africa iyasiphoqelela ukuthi sinifundise ukuze nikwazi ukuthi nenze mama okhulume okunas jeep ukhulume kakhulu kahle ukuthi nale abahlali fanele nisimonitor ukuthi umsebenzi wethu siyawenza enisoyawenzisisa kahle na ukuze abantu bakwazi ukuthi input enwayenzile yikuphi esizokupackage sikuthathe mugise ku PSC ukuthi bakucubungule bakubhekisise. What is our deadline? Kusho ukuthi ukwenza ama input akupheleli la namhlanje. Usenokuthumela sikwenze kube lo lama inputs angahambelani nale PSC there, but in the committee siyayenza ama presentation sayenza ama kodwa asivali namhlanje. This is an ongoing process until kuwo bonke abahlali abakhonile ukuthi bayenza. Nginibonge in advance nabasazoyenza ama input kungakafiki July so that by the time we go back to NCOP si ready ngokwenza ama input singumphathi. Ngibonge ukhansela, ngibonge ama commissioners wayo. Oh, I think there was a one question thingimkhulumele. Angithi okokuqala kune criteria ebekiwe ukuthi ubani umuntu ongaba yi-commissioner of the skills, the experience. Akusukuthi uyamthanda nje uzambheka athi wena makameni ngoba umhlophe undlula umavuso mnyama ngikhetha wena. But kuzoba babekile ke uDG uyobeka ukuthi at the moment somadoda Fikeni uye uchairperson criticizer as ayenza ama input But siyabona also ukuthi nalema university uyafundisa nginamanga kodwa ngiyacabanga ukuthi lo osomadoda afikeni ukuthi mhlambe bona abanayo leyo capacity banayo ngiyabazi nalaba nasemasontweni ngeke ngibabone mangivakashile labakhonza khona bakufundisa nange PSC mara usomadoda afikeni ngiyacabanga ukuthi okwama without wasting isikhathi ithi nginibonge batha khona aseculateayo ngisalinde Okay. Bathi ngathi nalawa abasinikeze wona bazocela ukuthi thina sonke silinde la ngiyabona lokho abasilungiselele kona singaphumi yeah sinibonge kakhulu bahlali sibabonile nebasema Davidton sibabonile nebase Hammanskraal sibabonile bonke nakule manye ama meeting bakhona baye bafika bavele ema Randfontein bavela kuphi kuphi fundisa la ngibuya khona angibabonanga ngizosibuye Davidton siyobafundisa basekuruleni. Thank you so much sengathi inkosi ngaba